Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now, it's actually been a few weeks since I filmed a new episode. I've had some friends visiting for the past few weeks and, frankly, I decided to get like a backlog of videos and release them bit by bit over the course of their visit so that I wasn't having to try and fit in filming. However, today I simply had to make a video talking about a really exciting piece of news. Now, you've almost certainly already heard this, but the news is that Spider-Man is making his way into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Up until now, I suppose since the year 2000, I guess, Spider-Man has been locked into Sony and Sony's film production machine in that sense. Marvel sort of signed over the rights to Spider-Man at a time when I suppose Marvel Studios, as they are today, was really a bit of a pipe dream. People were still, I suppose, testing the water when it came to superhero films. Of course, since then, in recent years, Marvel have become a powerhouse in terms of cinematic releases, perhaps not in terms of home DVD releases. DC, for example, have done an amazing job with their animated films, but certainly in the cinematic universe, Marvel have been, as they say, just killing it, completely owning the superhero genre. And it seems that Sony, after a lukewarm reception, I suppose, to their most recent attempt to reboot and give a sequel to Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, Sony have finally decided, okay, we want a piece of the Marvel action, and they're happy to come to some sort of arrangement, or indeed they have come to some sort of arrangement in terms of the use of the character of Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. Now, presumably Sony are going to retain the rights to make their own Spider-Man films, while Marvel will have the right to insert Spider-Man into their franchises that they already have out there, and maybe even make a Spider-Man film of their own, which is an amazing piece of news. But the question is, though, how on earth is this going to work? For example, at the moment with the Green Arrow, there's a Green Arrow TV series, Arrow, which is very, very successful. But in a Green Arrow movie, it seems that DC are likely to take the decision, which they have done, say, with The Flash, that the same actor won't play the hero in both mediums. So in the TV series and the film, it's unlikely to have the same actor in both. And this could be very confusing. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical actually about how that's going to pan out with DC. But when it comes to Spider-Man, if Marvel are doing their one set of stories and Sony decide to do another set of stories, how are they going to make it work? How can they possibly make it work without confusing people? And sadly, lots of people will get confused. They'll be like, but didn't Gwen die in that film? And it'll be confusing. Now, I'm sure that they've got a plan in the works, but may I humbly suggest something from my personal comic book collection, and that is this particular issue of Astonishing Spider-Man, collected edition number 4 from February 1996. In this particular Spider-Man, we are introduced to, or certainly I was introduced to, this was actually my first ever Spider-Man comic. It's in quite good condition, actually. But I was introduced to the idea that Peter Parker has a clone. Now, this was a very controversial storyline. Some people hated it, other people really quite liked it, but for a while, Peter Parker was convinced that he was not Peter Parker. He thought he was a clone of Peter Parker, and another character who had given himself the name, I believe Ben Reilly, took over the role of Spider-Man. So for a while, Spider-Man was not himself. He was in fact a clone of himself. And this could work very, very well for this filmic franchising out of Spider-Man. It would mean that you could actually have the same actor playing Spider-Man. So that would limit confusion in terms of the audience. all you'd need to do is tweak his personality. So when he's in the Marvel universe, if it's Andrew Garfield, I don't think it will be, but if it is him, he'll have a certain personality trait. Maybe when he's not Spider-Man, or even when he is Spider-Man, maybe he'll be a bit more sarcastic, a little bit more actually like the golden age of Spider-Man as far as I'm concerned. That was the animated series in the 90s. But when he's in the Sony universe, change his costume, change his personality a little bit, change his hairstyle, whatever. But the same actor can be in both films and portraying an honest portrayal of that universe's Spider-Man, whether it be the Marvel or the Sony requirement. But it's all canon. They're actually linked, and they're not linked. It would be incredible. Now, other people have suggested, for example, that maybe they could deliberately break the fourth wall. For example, maybe have Deadpool, because obviously there's an upcoming Deadpool movie, break that wall for you and say, come on guys, we know that this isn't Spider-Man in that film, or so the same Spider-Man from that film, deal with it, you know? But I think that's a far less elegant way of doing it. If you were to take the Ben Reilly, Peter Parker kind of story arc and create two different film franchises out of it, owned by two different film studios, that would be beautiful. Because then also as well, actually I imagine that the actor would have great fun. Again, if it was Andrew Garfield, who wouldn't have fun portraying different types of Spider-Man? It'd be amazing. Now, there is also another route, and that is, of course, you could go down the route of portraying a different Spider-Man entirely. For example, Spider-Man could be black or Hispanic. Was it Miles Morales, for example, is a recent iteration of Spider-Man who is not Peter Parker, is not the same as the one that we've seen in recent Sony films. You could go down the route of even going, for example, with an Indian Spider-Man. There's actually a version of Spider-Man from India, which could be fascinating, but somehow I doubt that Marvel or Sony are going to want to let go of what many people see as being the prime Spider-Man, the originator, and that is Peter Parker. So rather than going moving completely away from the type of Spider-Man that we've seen so far, and that I suppose the film companies will want people to feel will assume that people will want to feel comfortable with a type of Spider-Man that they've already been introduced to. Rather than completely shattering that and having people go, oh, but I thought Spider-Man was Peter Parker. Those people who haven't been reading comics or haven't kept up to date with the comic developments, perhaps the clone idea could be the answer. Perhaps actually having these two different iterations of Spider-Man be the same actor in different nuanced roles could be really interesting. Different costumes, different attitudes, different relationships with in some instances the same characters. You could actually have crossovers. You could have a whole saga, as they did in the comics, erupt surrounding, I suppose, Peter or Ben or whatever you want to call them. These guys finding out that they are not actually Spider-Man, or maybe one of them isn't, but they are because they're clones. But that they are clones, and that maybe they butt heads over this for a while. Maybe we could even have the Scarlet Spider turn up. Who knows? But all in all, this is great news. I mean, this is amazing news. I've always wanted to see Spider-Man done right, dare I say. And that is by Marvel, and also actually sort of working it into the cinematic universe that they've already laid out for us. Who doesn't want to see Spider-Man and Tony Stark having a battle of wits, a battle of sarcastic quips, while maybe even fighting each other? Although they probably won't fight each other, because in the Civil War storyline, Spider-Man and Stark become allies. Actually, Spider-Man's really important for Civil War. And, of course, Civil War is the subject of the third upcoming Captain America film. So there's all sorts of things to consider, all sorts of things floating around. But just for my little part, for my 2 pence, I thought I'd make this suggestion. Perhaps the answer lies back in 1996 with the twin of Spider-Man, the clone of Spider-Man, and I suppose the crisis that comes into Spider-Man's life when he figures out that he may not be who he thinks he is. Anyway, guys, hopefully this has been interesting. I certainly found it fascinating reading all the different I suppose the ideas surrounding the possibilities of this development. But ultimately, Great news. Spider-Man in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Couldn't be happier. Nonetheless, as ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.